and then made a 60 something. But I'm not dead.
Yeah.
I'm in a hole, but I can dig myself out. I'm not dead yet.
Well, God placed the calling on your heart for a reason. And anytime he's ever called anybody, he always saw them through. So no matter what happens, God's calling is still going to happen. So, hey, Chloe. It ended up not being 2 hours in traffic. Okay. I had 2 more people say that they were going to join, but honestly, I'm going to go ahead and start, and if they would like to join, they are welcome to. I do not mind. Okay. Sorry, I just had to see what verses I was actually doing, because I have already forgotten. It's been that long of a day. All right, so tonight we're talking about God confidence, and let me see if I can pull up my little document. There it is. And beautiful. Here we are. So we're studying actually in Exodus chapter 3 and chapter 4, but and I'm not even going to read all of what I put for chapter 4 down. But the reason why I wanted to talk about God confidence is because a friend of mine came to me actually within the past couple of weeks, and she just was like, I just really need encouragement, and when it comes to the decisions she was making and if they were the right ones, having that confidence in her choices and trusting her gut and her heart. And I started to really think about this, because at first I was like, I don't really know what to tell her when it comes to self-confidence, because I'm not one to be super confident in myself at times. So it was hard for me to come from a place of encouraging her and telling her you've got this. Yes, it's easy to encourage, but it's hard to say you have to believe in yourself, when half the time I can't even believe in my own self when I'm trying to accomplish things. And when I was really thinking about it, she knows that my advice is always going to be related to God. No matter what type of advice it is, it's always going to be in relation to God and how he's going to be involved. So whatever my answer was, it's going to be faith-filled, because that's where I gain my confidence. It's not always that easy though. Like I have said, I doubt, I question, and sometimes at the end of the day, I have to simply just wing things. She asked for the scripture, and as I looked further into self-assurance and struggling with self-doubt, I realized some of the biggest known people in the Bible struggled with confidence. Actually, majority of them. Moses, Paul, Peter, Gideon. When God called them and they had to make a decision, not all of them immediately said yes and went. Not all of them had confidence in their own abilities. They didn't so much as doubt God, but themselves. And to try and keep this Bible study from not being so scattered, I figured we would just focus on one of them. And so I figured Moses and the mass exit would be a good one to look back on. So just to start us off, I have a few definitions. So self-confidence is a feeling of trust in one's abilities, qualities, and judgment. And then you have God confidence. And this is Google. I did not just come up with my own definition. I just said God confidence. So to develop confidence from God, we have to rely on him. And that means putting everything we think and feel out into the open. depending completely upon God and his strength to handle the things in our lives. So having a worldly focus means putting your confidence into things like money, education, people, and appearance. Having a godly focus means to seek things above. So let's go ahead and read. I'll read Exodus 3:10 through 15. So starting at 10. Come now, therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. And Moses said unto God, Who am I, that I should go unto Pharaoh, and that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? And he said, Certainly I will be with thee, and this shall be a token unto thee, and I have sent thee. When thou hast brought forth the people out of Egypt, ye shall serve God upon his mountain. And Moses said unto God, Behold, when I come unto the children of Israel, and shall say unto them, The God of your fathers hath sent me unto you, and they shall say to me, What is his name? And what shall I say unto them? And God said unto Moses, I am that I am. And he said, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am hath sent me unto you. And God said moreover unto Moses, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, The Lord of God your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob hath sent me unto you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations. Also, I'm so sorry, I'm reading King James Version. I did not have time to look up those other verses. Okay, but for y'all's sanity, I'm actually going to do that. So Exodus chapter 4, verse 1 through whenever God wants me to stop, I guess. But no further than 22. Okay, 4. Also, I'm really sorry I was late, guys. But we're making it. We got it.
Oh, you're fine.
Thanks, Stassi.
Of course.
Okay, so I'll just do NIV for Exodus 4. Moses answered, What if they do not believe me or listen to me and say the Lord did not appear to you? Then the Lord said to him, What is that in your hand? A staff, he replied. The Lord said, Throw it on the ground. Moses threw it on the ground, and it became a snake, and he ran from it. Then the Lord said to him, Reach out your hand and take it by the tail. So Moses reached out and took hold of the snake, and it turned back into a staff in his hand. This, said the Lord, is so that they may believe that the Lord, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has appeared to you. Then the Lord said, Put your hand inside your cloak. So Moses put his hand into his cloak, and when he took it out, the skin was leprous. It had become as white as snow. Now put it back into your cloak, he said. So Moses put his hand back into his cloak, and when he took it out, it was restored like the rest of his flesh. Then the Lord said, If they do not believe you or pay attention to the first sign, they may believe the second. But if they do not believe these two signs or listen to you, take some water from the Nile and pour it onto dry land. The water you take from the river will become blood on the ground. Moses said to the Lord, Pardon your servant, Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue. The Lord said to him, Who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say. But Moses said, Pardon your servant, Lord. Please send someone else. Then the Lord's anger burned against Moses, and he said, What about your brother Aaron, the Levite? And know he can speak well. He is already on his way to meet you, and he will be glad to see you. You shall speak to him and put words in his mouth. I will help both of you speak and will teach you what to do. He will speak to the people for you, and it will be as if you were your mouth and as if you were God to him. But take this staff in your hand so you can perform the signs with it. And I'm gonna actually stop right there. But so we see 5 excuses that Moses gives God just within those passages. And these are excuses that I have used. They are excuses I bet y'all have used. They are excuses that hold every single one of us back from growing into our faith, from growing into whatever season of life we are in. And the more you grow into your faith, the more confidence you will build in God. Then this leads to more confidence into yourselves, because when you grow closer to God, you grow into the plans and life He already set out and prepared for you. We have to gain the God confidence before gaining self-confidence. And the excuses listed by Moses is, I'm not adequate for the task, I don't know enough, people won't take me seriously, I'm no good with words, and I'm not willing. These are things that I do struggle with daily. I get so caught up in if I'm enough, what if I fail, what if people don't care, what if I'm not the person that they need or want, and God says, I can overcome all of that. So I broke it down into each excuse. So I'm not adequate for the task, and that's in chapter 3, verse 11 through 12. And Moses asked, who am I? The answer in the world we live in when we are self-doubting is self-confidence, always. But God's answer shows us otherwise. God says, I will be with you. Do you see what God is doing? Not trying to instill that self-confidence. He never once had to be have faith in yourself, or He said, have faith in me. He's trying to instill that God confidence. The Lord doesn't turn Moses's eyes back on Himself. And that's what a lot of times we do in situations we're in. We turn our eyes back to ourselves and our abilities. He fights self-doubt with the God confidence. Essentially, the Lord says, who are you? Really? Who are you? That's not the point. I will be with you. That's my point. So it's like when you get invited somewhere that you really don't want to go, and you ask the person who invited you, who's going to be there? And I myself have responded like this, by the way, with, what does it matter who will be there? The point is I will be there. That's enough. I have definitely said that to people when they're like, who's all gonna show up? Because they already don't want to go. They're trying to figure out if the people attending are worth it. So the deliverance of the people didn't depend on the ability of Moses, but on the presence and power and sufficiency of God. When God selects people to serve His purposes, He always provides His resources for them to be successful. So, the second one, I don't know enough. I feel like this every single time I show up to work. And Kyle, Chloe, I don't know if y'all feel like this when you show up to work and you're like, okay, I have this patient and this is going on. I don't think I know enough to accomplish the task at hand. So Moses' next problem in verses 13 and 14 was that he was afraid the Israelites might ask him a question he couldn't answer. How many of us have really been there? I was literally there today. This patient kept calling, and I hated answering the phone because he always asked me a question that I was like, well, now I have to follow up with this person. Well, now I have to call this person because I don't know how to answer that. Of course, it wasn't in my scope of practice for me to know these things at all. But I felt awful being like, listen, I don't know the answer to that. And I couldn't tell you. I gotta find the right person to even call for this. So this is why most people don't like being called on in class. I have patients go and ask me a question and I get nervous, worried I won't have the answer or response that they want. That's a big one. I'm always worried that I'm not going to answer how they want me to answer. So God responds though with I am. God is saying, don't worry if you don't have the correct response. Don't worry if you don't know the answer. I do. I know the answer. I know it if you don't. And that's okay. We are not supposed to know everything. And God knows that. God knows that life will always provide us with questions that we could never even begin to answer. If we knew everything we needed to, we wouldn't need Him, and we would be God-like. So in verse 15, God tells us His name. Where is it? my version, it says, the Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. That's like the first time that he's ever said like his full like name. To most of us, our names have particular significance and meaning, but they're not all that descriptive. Nicole, what does that even mean? Like, who is a Nicole? You know? So when you give someone your name, it creates this personal connection. When someone says your name when addressing you, it lets you know they know who you are. They personally want to call out your name to get your attention and keep your focus. That's exactly what God is doing. He's giving us his name to allow us, for us to use it. Not just know it, but to actually use it. He wants us to know him for who he really is. And knowing God's name means that we're interacting with more than just this anonymous force or principle. Someone we can have a relationship with. You can't just have a relationship like without that type of personal connection, and a name allows that. So God is saying you may not know the answers, but all you need to know is my name. I know my name, use my name, and that's it. If you know nothing else, then know God's name. Okay, so now we got the third excuse. People won't take me seriously. I am like the least serious person, so when I really need to be serious, I am always terrified that people are going to think that I'm joking when I'm actually like, no, like for real. I feel people brush off what I say half the time. I feel like people don't really listen to me. And I genuinely feel like none of my patients really take me very seriously, especially when they're like, I think you might want to call the doctor. Like that is a confidence booster right there, let me tell you. But Moses is objecting, saying no one will listen to him. His mind is already there. No one will believe him. No one will. God answers that objection by giving Moses the power to work miracles, though. Not once or twice, but he gives them 3 miracles, and he tells Moses to perform them if the people don't listen to him the first time or the second time. He's got a backup. And Moses is so worried about these people telling him to get lost and go home. And I've been in his shoes. I've been so worried that people will turn me away or be like, let's not do that. Like, no, your idea is dumb. This past week, I felt like that a lot at work. A lot. As a nurse, you are the communicator between patient and physician, and sometimes case management. And sometimes you got 3-4 physicians on the case, and it gets confusing. You mix up the names. I mix up names all the time. Physicians don't always see what's going on. They look at it from like, this is the patient's form, these are his documents, this is their chart, okay? And they are very rarely on the floor when something bad happens. They are never there when it's like, all right, this just happened, let's grab them. No, you've got to somehow get a hold of them. It's like right after they leave the building. It's like perfect timing. So, when that patient turns for the worst, you're the one that has to communicate and figure out the best response to that. It's our job to voice it. However, if I call a code or a rapid response, if I have any concern, then once the physician and the run nurse come into the room, I have to know this patient inside and out. If I missed a minor detail that could explain everything that's happening, if I didn't do something to counteract what's happening, I end up looking like the fool. It's like calling a rapid response for a low blood sugar for a patient who can tell you his name, where he's at, give you the situation, time, place, and he can just simply drink juice. Why would I get 6 people in a room for a patient who can just drink some apple juice? And that's all they need. So I tell you all of that to say that it has taken me probably this whole year actually to kind of gain my confidence in my nursing abilities. Because when I first started nursing, like I had a patient with a low blood sugar that was alert and oriented, and I didn't even think to give them juice. I immediately went to my preceptor. I was like, what do I do? He was like, literally just go get apple juice. And And then seeing that difference from now, like last week, I had to actually call a rapid response. But when the doctor came in the room and I was able to tell the doctor, this patient inside and out, what has been happening, my actions to counteract every symptom that this patient had, the doctor said, you did everything you could in your hands, and I'm glad you called, because we need to address that. And it took a whole year to gain that confidence in myself, to be able to to call this rapid on my own. I was talking to other nurses about it, but like when they asked for my opinion, I wasn't like, well, what do you think? I immediately said, honestly, I want to call a rapid. So I don't know what y'all want to do, but I think that's what I'm going to do. And just the fact that it took that long to kind of gain that, it's going to take time in whatever season you're in, because every season is different and every season requires a different type of confidence. So people won't take you seriously unless you've proven how serious you are for the Lord. That's the ultimate conclusion of all of that. Because if, like the other nurses, when they heard me say, hey, I do want to call a rapid on this patient, they knew that I was being serious, because they know that I am very hesitant to call a rapid response. I don't like calling rapid response. It scares the patient. It makes me nervous. Do I know it's necessary sometimes? Yeah. But that is just one thing that I really like to hold off doing. And so when my immediate reaction was like, no, we need to call a rapid, they knew I was serious and they took me seriously. So when you get serious about your faith, people will take you seriously because they've seen your actions. And sometimes I don't even take my own self seriously until I've spoken to God about it. People take you seriously when they've seen you prove yourself. They've seen those actions line up. And so the next excuse, I'm no good with words, which is actually what I feel literally right now. So, sorry. And I'm going to use the word words like figuratively, because we are not all in speaking positions. However, we each possess certain skills, strengths, but with those we have shortcomings and weaknesses. Not just as a nurse, but as a human in general. I question the skills God has given me more times than I can count. I don't always have faith that I can accomplish a task. I question if I'm good at being a nurse, being a friend, being a big sister, an advisor, even leading these Bible studies every week. I wouldn't be human if I didn't question something. And in verse 10, Moses speaks to us, Night, go away, please. I love you. Sorry, my brother came in. But he speaks to us and he starts to question his own abilities. He says what we've all thought. And I love how beautifully God answers him. God says, who hath made man's mouth? God made you. He made your abilities. He made your strengths. He knows your weaknesses. He designed you how he needed you and how others needed you. He made no mistakes and no errors. So no matter what skill or ability you struggle with, whether it's patience, compassion, loving the unkind, remaining calm or at peace, holding your tongue, holding back judgment, speaking, God is saying, I will be what lacks. You can't hold your tongue, I will hold it for you. You struggle being patient, I will help you to do so. You have an anxious heart and mind, I'll cease the storm and calm the waters. He's going to match it. He's going to match your weaknesses no matter what. And the last one is simply, I'm not willing. And as much as we like to think that every person in the Bible, when they're called, they eventually go and do something that they were called to do, that is not the case with Moses. So when I say I'm not willing, it's referring to being unmotivated. There are plenty of things that I need to do in a day's time that I simply am just unmotivated to do. I'm not always willing to make time for it. I push it off further and further until I simply just have to do it. But Moses reveals his heart in this verse. The problem wasn't all these obstacles. If they were that easily resolved by God, because God had an answer to every single one. He gives a solution to each excuse. Moses revealed that the heart of the problem was a problem of his heart. I don't want to do this. This usually is the real issue at hand. Sometimes we're just not simply willing to step out in faith and obey God. It's scary. It's part of the unknown. And Moses tells God, send somebody else. Send somebody else. We make excuses daily. Maybe not to what God has called us to do, but we make excuses for our behaviors and our decisions. I'm here to tell you that if you have to make excuses for a decision you are making or about to make, that God is not in it. You are simply unwilling to go where God needs you to go. And I'm here to tell you something else. That's okay. It's okay to say no. And it's okay to just step back from that. Moses didn't. Aaron had to do it. Moses wasn't able to go and speak to these people. God sent somebody else at Moses' request. But I don't want y'all to miss this. If you have a lack of God confidence to go where he needs you to go, to do what he needs you to do, to answer what he is calling you to do, God will send someone else. A lot of times we say, God wrote my story, he knew my answer, but what we miss is God gives us a choice to be a part of a much bigger plan. He doesn't write our decisions, he just knows them. If you are unwilling, God will send someone else, and you will miss out on being a servant of God and being used for his great plan and his kingdom. I don't ever want to look back at my own decision and realize God sent someone else when I had the option of saying yes. And I don't want y'all to let God send someone else because you were his first choice. So the closer we grow to God, the more our decisions become like his. So if we are walking with him faithfully and mindfully, then we should trust where our hearts and minds lead us. Once they've been consulted with God, of course, we can't ever fully trust ourselves. Which is why I don't, yes, you need to have confidence, but I truly believe you just need to have God confidence. We are made of flesh, and flesh lies, and is easily influenced, but we can trust that he created us. We can trust the God that created us. Self-doubt turns into doubting God. Self-doubt is a creation from Satan to prevent you from answering God's call. What's the quickest way to get someone to not do something? Tell them they're not good enough. God made up for Moses' self-doubt and still freed his people. Confidence in God frees up your heart to learn what he needs you to learn. And just because Moses was unwilling, God didn't forget about him. And he didn't stop speaking to Moses. He did not ever call on him. He literally called on him multiple more times, after that. In fact, all the way till chapter 16, from chapter 4, each chapter starts off with, and the Lord spoke to Moses. So God confidence has a lot to do with how to serve God. To serve God effectively, we depend on his presence and his strength, not your abilities. Be ready for the difficulties of the mission, be obedient to his commandments, and work alongside people who are willing to follow God's ways. And I'm really sorry, that was a really, really fast lesson, but also